Welcome to The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and local advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener, the very last production or show for 2020. I got to tell you, it feels pretty good to see this year go behind us. Next year, 2021, it already feels better. So it's good that it's been from a garden center perspective, we've been truly blessed. So people have been stuck at home and they've been gardening, and gardening's been found again. It was lost for a few years. So travel took its place, or experiences, ropes courses were higher on the interest list than gardening. But all of a sudden, people started gardening, having success, and they found the garden center again. And this is throughout northern Arizona. I'm talking to friends now, going, how'd you do? How are your tree sales? What'd you find? And we all feel blessed. So, it seems like you either have that, or you were just crushed as a small business owner. Even large companies. Like in Prescott, we lost Pier 1 and World Market and Sears. All those were gone this last year. And so it seems like you're either doing really well or going bankrupt. It's like there's no in between anymore. It's scary out there. It's been a frustrating year to be a business leader, those in charge of going to work and getting teams together and doing something, working together for a higher cause than just yourselves. This has been difficult. But if you're good at leadership, you're good at rallying folks, instilling confidence, it was a good thing. So it worked out very well. So I've got a great team. They've been with us forever. Waters Garden Center, we're noted as the place where employees put their roots down. So we have very little turnover. We had a few folks that were retired and kind of come in, and we're kind of their fun money or their social outlet, or they just come in and work for the employee discount. That's it. And I'm good with all those. We've got this whole team of folks that we love, active young retirees, because they got the smarts, they got the work ethic. You just can't push them when the guys are getting together on the golf course. They're not going to work for you. When the grandkids come into town, they're not coming to work. And you just have to be flexible with that. Those folks had to be quarantined a little bit, or just were nervous, took time off, or we changed their schedule so they could come in before we even opened and water the plants or get things ready. So we were really adaptive that way. So it's worked out well for us. In fact, we're planning this next year. I don't know what to do. Right now, it's how do you forecast 2021? There's no vaccine yet. I just looked. I'm going to be able to get the vaccine right before prisoners and the homeless. It's a retailer, essential worker out in the community. It's just going to take a while before they get enough to get down to my level, so our family's level. And so it's going to be frontline workers, as it should be, doctors and nurses, as it should be. So it's going to take a while. So we're planning the crop rotations, the seed production, the flowers, vegetables, herbs. We're planning right now, fruit trees, berries. We're upping the edibles. This food insecurity thing, it's real. And it's going to keep hiccuping through the supply chain. That's not going away till summer maybe. So we're planning on spring being very similar to last year. People at home, more comfortable in their backyards, their private garden, where they can be outdoors but not around a bunch of people. So we're planning on increasing tomato crops. We have increased peppers, across the board, all edibles. Fruit trees are coming in about 4 weeks. We've just bumped up a lot of fruit trees, a lot of grapes and berries. And so that's going to be something different for next year, which I think we'll be able to keep up with the demand. Like we had a hard time this 2020. Next year, it should be easier for us. And so that's kind of 2020 in a nutshell, 5 minutes or less. And that's all I want to say about 2020. I'm ready for a new year myself. fact, I was doing some gardening this last week. I was pruning my perennials back. And so the sages, the asters, coreopsis, all the flowers that hibernate underground. And so the tops look pretty dead, from daylilies to echinaceas to catmint. All these things can be pruned back down to the ground anytime in the next two months. You've got plenty of time. I just had some time, and we just said, I'm going to go take an afternoon. It was so nice earlier in the week. I just went, this is so beautiful. I'm going to go take advantage of this, and spent the whole day just out in the sun. In fact, I think I got a little sunburn. It was pretty. I can't wait till these short days are gone. I mean, I was out working in the yard. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and the shadows were still really long. Oh, I can't believe how short the days are right now. So from this point forward, we're past winter solstice a couple days ago. Now the days get longer and longer. I think it's like, I forget how many minutes per day, but you get so many in the morning, so many in the afternoon, and it just crescendos until you get to summer. And so I am ready for warmer, longer days mainly. Just give me longer days. I don't mind the cold. I kind of like winter. I like dressing in layers. I like hats. I like gloves. I've got these new battery-operated vests that kind of, when you get cold, hit a button, it starts activating heating coils around your chest. It's the greatest thing ever. So I don't mind the cold. I just want longer days where I get more sun. The sun's higher up in the horizon. It just feels better. But my perennials, if you're pruning perennials, do it anytime you want. And I did most of mine with, I'm glad you're not my neighbor, because I'd almost be embarrassed if you saw me working in my backyard. But it's basically a lawnmower and some hedgers. And I just go over those perennials with a lawnmower. I mean, shave it down to, put it at the highest setting, and I just take the blade and right over it. Right down all that dead stuff is all gone. And so, in fact, I was looking at mums. I'm already starting to see some green growth coming up. So they're starting to emerge and peek their heads for spring 2021. Now, it looks like it'll cool down this week and stays that way. It should be. It's winter. So anything that's showing will just kind of freeze there. It just won't die. It'll just kind of hibernate, kind of in cyberstasis. And then it'll just, as it warms up, it'll grow some more. Then it'll slow down. It'll warm up, grow some more. And so your roses will do that. I pruned back some of my, not heavy, just gave it a haircut, some of my shrub roses. I'll do my major pruning of roses in the month of March. Kind of depends on the weather a little bit. I might go the end of February if it feels warm, or I might cheat it to the end of March if it feels cold. Your roses like to be pruned last in the spring. Also, while I'm on that topic, just kind of blooming shrubs, I should do a whole program on just pruning. Maybe next week I'll set up a whole segment on just pruning. But for now, here's the highlights. Prune back perennials as you feel. Wait on the roses. Definitely wait on anything that blooms in the spring, or you will cut all the flowers off. Do not prune lilacs. Do not prune forsythia, quince, rhododendrons, azaleas, camellias. You know which ones bloom in the spring. Now, plants that bloom in the summer, prune them all back now at your convenience. When you get a nice day and you want to get outside and the family is driving you crazy, you just need some space in the outdoors with some pruning shears. Go out and prune your hibiscus, your chase tree, Russian sage, salvias, all those things that bloom in the summer, they actually prefer to be pruned in the winter. So go for those. Just go for it. All those spring bloomers, they've been forming buds for 6 months now. If you go out and prune them, it won't hurt them. It won't kill them. It won't do any kind of health things, but you just won't get the flowers, which is why you planted those. So you really do want to enjoy the fragrance. Watch that beauty show up. Then, right after they're done blooming, that's when you go ahead and prune a lilac. That's when you prune rhododendrons and azaleas and all those other things, shape them back to size that makes them look more uniform. Got a lot in store for you, but Lisa Waters is coming in with your garden questions after this.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him every week for timely garden advice right for the gardens. Visit Ken where he can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
Okay, maybe after the same white elephant exchange, it's time to start a new holiday tradition.
A living Christmas tree from Waters Garden Center can be decorated and enjoyed for a lifetime, not just a season.
When the holiday festivities end, gather family and friends and plant your tree together for years of enjoyment. Or Waters will plant it for you, guaranteed.
As your family tree grows, have a tree grow with your family from Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You've been listening to Ken Lane, the Mountain Gardener. Green thumbs learned while working in the Family Garden Center. Now welcome back to the Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions. Just what are your neighbors talking about? What can we learn from other folks? And we can listen into those garden questions. So we kind of glean these off of the sales floor, emails, Facebook. Just we get any more people talk. There's so many different ways people like to communicate. So
That's true.
It's difficult to keep up, but this segment's all about them and what's going on in the gardens in your neighborhood.
That's right.
Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
I must say, I have to let
Yes.
everyone know I love my Christmas gift. It was great. Still enjoying it.
Good. So it's from the entire family.
Yeah.
We worked together and strategized and planned and bought, and we redid your work office. So You've been kind of grousing a little bit, and it's true. You always had the leftover pictures, a leftover chair, a desk that nobody else wanted, and we just finally decided, hey, you work hard enough. We'll give you a nice office.
I graduated in business management 30, 40, how many years ago? 40, 50? A long time ago. And never had my own office. Never had to decorate my own office. Never had, I always had leftovers. I mean, including the houseplants were just kind of left over. So I bought a new desk.
Yes.
A standing desk, so it goes up and down. For myself.
You did.
And then you all just took that and ran with it. I love it.
We did.
And it feels like a man office. It's not some leftover.
Nothing frilly about it.
No, it's a bunch of cowboy, bulls. Bulls are the theme, so cows. I love it. I feel like I'm outdoors. I'm an outdoorsman anyway, so I always feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
If I can't be in a garden, I'll be in a pasture surrounded by bulls.
You got it.
And here I go to work. I love going to work every day now. I loved it before. Now I really enjoy it.
It was fun. We actually found a lot of things here locally, tried to shop locally as much as we could, and found some great art and different tables and things to bring in, and turned out really well.
I honestly did not see it coming. I saw one little slight receipt. You reframed my Bill Anton, cowboy Western artist, famous Western Prescottonian.
Right.
You reframed it, and I went, "Oh, that's interesting." Oh, and then 2 days later, here we go. So my daughter called me, folks. She goes, "Dad, can I have you come to the office?" And go, "Oh no, no one ever calls me unless there's a problem." So I figured. The place is on fire, irrigation has erupted, there's plumbing issues, something happened. I'm going to go fix it, do it. I'm going, what do you need? She goes, just come to your office. I'm going, okay.
She goes, I'm not allowed to tell you, but just come.
Hilarious.
That doesn't raise flags at all.
My guard was off the charts. But I came over and I thought for sure it was an issue. So, something collapsed or something happened. So, nope.
It's just the girls and I, we spent most of the morning dragging stuff out, dragging stuff in. And
how did you get even the entire team here at Waters knew? Everyone knew but me. How did you pull that off? That's so good. I'm so impressed.
Still amazed. But we had stuff being delivered here so I could store it in some of the containers and stuff. So I'd be like, this is coming. This is where you put it. Don't tell Ken. So I was amazed. We were able to keep it quiet. I mean, there were times when even the girls and I were talking about it in front of you.
Go, I'm a man. I don't listen, but I should.
But yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to top this year's Christmas gift.
Sure
for
you
a
can.
long time.
Let me tell you how.
I don't think so.
Anyway, garden questions. Enough about my Christmas gift.
True.
What's going on in people's gardens, even at the end of the year?
Yeah. So Luke has a question. He put in a fescue lawn in October.
Yeah.
It says been doing well, really happy with it. His question, though, is this time of year, how often should he be watering?
Yeah, good question. So October is the perfect time. It's one of the best times to start a lawn, either by sod or seed. Sounds like, I don't know how I didn't say, but it's still going to work. So March and October are your two peak windows for starting new lawns or expanding or overseeding. So with a new lawn, I'm sure it is rich green. Even right now, as we head into the teens, it's still going to stay green because fescue is a cool season grass. It likes the cold, and so it stays green. As lawns are younger, they tend to keep their green, especially if you fertilized it right and that kind of stuff. Going back to his question, though, is how often do you water a grass lawn? And I would probably say about once a week. There's a little bit of variance with that, but maybe it's 5 days in your yard, or maybe it's every 10 days. But think about every week and take a look at it. When you water in the middle of the day. Don't water so a bunch of ice forms all over the grass. And if there is ice, don't walk over the grass. As those blades are frozen or covered in ice, as you step on them, it'll actually break the blade. So you want to let it thaw out. And almost every afternoon, we thaw out. We can just go wrestle, and dogs can romp and roll all over the lawn. It's fine. So about once a week through probably March. Then you're going to, depends on when the weather breaks. Right. Sometime in March, you're probably going to start flipping it on you'll start slow, maybe every 6 days and every 5 days. And eventually, fescues are a drought-hardy grass. So you're probably, even in the peak of summer when it's 100 degrees out, you're probably watering every other day, every third day with a fescue grass. So the roots are so deep on fescue that that's probably enough for that particular mountain grass.
So how long, if you had to give a average length of time you should water, 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
So with that, I can't say because there's so many different types of grass sprinkler heads. So it just depends. If you read a book, they'll go, take tuna cans or some way to measure, put it out in the lawn and measure till you get 1 inch of water. 1 inch of water will go down about 6-7 inches of root, which is about enough for a lawn. So the book says, put some tuna cans out and just run it until you see about 1 inch of water in those cans. And that's your measurement. You'll never change that depending on the time of year. You're always going to water that length of time in January, in October, in June. All you're playing with at that point is frequency. How often should I water that much? But every time you irrigate a lawn, it'll need that much water. Same for trees, shrubs. As soon as you figure out how much it takes to water them, you never think about that again. All you think about is how often should I water? Same amount every time, though.
Yeah. Very good advice. Hard for people to kind of get it settled in their head sometimes, but you're right.
Listeners of the show, they hear it often enough. They just kind of, through osmosis, they get it.
Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. So Susan has a question. She's out in Chino, and she's noticing that many of the native oaks and some of the pines on her property are just looking really stressed, drying up, just not looking kind of sparse. And we haven't gotten a lot of waters, but her question is, should she water those natives? Is it something you should do, or you just let them survive on their own?
So, no, you don't let them survive on their own because they'll die. So that's, especially with a drought year, we're in a drought. And the natives may have been fine on their own if you had built your whole subdivision around them. So now you've altered the water flow and the way the wind, you've created heat island effect. So now those natives are somewhat dependent on it. Not completely, but they could use some care from their owners, especially the valuable ones. Those big oak, emery oaks, they're beautiful. Go and water them. Big junipers, just shaggy bark and alligator bark junipers. They're beautiful, but they have not had enough rain or any kind of moisture for this year, basically. And so go ahead and water them. And this is where I get nervous because I don't want to give you freedom to go, drown them to death. But if you were to take a soaker hose, just a 50-foot basic black soaker hose, run it for half a day. And then you're probably fine for over a month, especially in winter. And I would do that until we see, probably at this point, you're going to be doing that once a month for your key valuable natives until the monsoons come, probably in July. So you're probably going to do this
for a while,
6-7 times before the monsoons of 2021 arrive.
Yeah.
And then you can back that totally off. And that'll keep those, especially pines, your conifers, the evergreens, they're going to benefit from that tremendously. So that'll really be, and I would fertilize them with the 744 all-purpose food as well. So how to take care of natives. Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Ken Lane, a.k.a. the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Waters Garden Center. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain gardens.
The holidays are here in Arizona's Christmas City, bringing family closer and those chilly winter winds.
While you're decorating the outside, don't forget to brighten up the inside with exotic Christmas plants from Waters.
Beautiful Christmas cactus and poinsettia are coming to town. Grown exclusively by Waters in colors you won't find anywhere else.
Unique, vibrant, and guaranteed to warm even the dreariest winter day.
Check your list twice for exotic Christmas plants at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Join the conversation every week as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Now welcome back your host, Ken Lane.
I had started the show about pruning perennials. It's time to prune back perennials at your convenience. You've got a large window. I'd say get them all done by the end of February. You're probably good. So you've got 6, 7, 8 weeks. Go prune at your leisure. When I'm done pruning, I'll do 2 things that really make a difference. One, I'll fertilize everything that I just pruned back. That will help those perennials to emerge, just to erupt from the ground. Again, perennials are those plants that hibernate down at their roots. Then they come back with fresh new plants next spring, summer, fall. Grasses are that way. There's a lot of plants like that. So if you fertilize them, they'll tend to activate faster in spring and you'll get more blossoms. I give them the 744 all-purpose plant food. It's cottonseed meal, bird guano, some iron, sulfur. It's got all the stuff you want blooming things to have and brings the fragrance out. In addition to that, though, I also add, specifically to blooming and fruiting things, superphosphate. 0-15-0. It's all phosphorus. Remember, it's nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. That middle number, phosphorus, promotes better roots, blooms, and fruits. That's what that particular food, plant food, is for. That hones right in on the fruit, flowers, and stronger roots. That's what you want from all things that bloom. So if your lilacs, your iris, your tomatoes, your fruit trees didn't bloom and fruit the way you wanted, give them more phosphorus. Well, okay, I own a garden center. I'm a gardener. My grandparents taught me how to garden years ago, both sides. So I'm pretty good at it. And so I just know plant foods. And so I just go, okay, I want more flowers. So I give them some phosphorus and that all-purpose plant food both at the same time. One other thing, if you're pruning back perennials, what will happen is if it's in an area where you don't want a bunch of seed coming back up, these are called wild flowers. So I kind of, where I have them, I like them to propagate and give me more. That's great. So I'll just fertilize and I'll get more flowers more perennials coming up in that part of the garden next year. If you're using weed whackers, some of these things are a big mower, and it's next to an area where you don't want more growth, you don't want more flowers, you don't want more weeds and everything else, those areas, you better make sure that you put down some weed and grass stopper. There's some seed killers, basically. So while you're fertilizing, you can put weed and grass stopper down. You spread it like a fertilizer, water it in, and it will keep any dandelions, foxtail, or any other seed from coming up along that fence line or in your driveway or wherever or your flower bed where you just want your roses and not a whole bunch of other flowers. You just want to show off those plants. Put your weed and grass stopper. For me, I had the guys come over, my planting team. They had a day or two available. I said, guys, you're coming over, you're going to reset a dry wash. I said, okay, boss, here we go. So they spent days on it, way longer than I thought, but they did such a great job. Well done, guys. The last thing I want is for weeds to be coming up in this new beautiful dry wash that they rip-wrapped and kind of dug out so the water flows through the yard at the right ratios, doesn't fill up or overflow. I don't want a bunch of weeds growing up in there. Or my Mexican primrose, this beautiful perennial that's got this beautiful pink flower that roams across in a wild fashion. It's just stunning. I don't want that getting into my new dry wash that's all set. So when I was all done, because I knew seed were going to fly everywhere, it's a happy garden. So happy gardens grow. Well, I just want them to grow where I want them to grow. I don't want them growing in the new dry wash. And so I walked up and down that new rip-wrapped area and just put weed and grass stopper down. And I won't get weeds, or it'll knock out 99%. I mean, it'll be so rare that I'll have any weeds coming up in there. But think in those terms, because there's a whole series of winter weeds that can wreak havoc on gardens. I mean, you'll come out, you thought you put it to bed, you come back out next spring to start planting new melons or new blackberries, whatever, and it's just covered in weeds. This is when the dandelions love to grow. This is when the foxtail grows fastest. This is when your horehound, all these nasty winter weeds, this is when they take off. And most of them come back by seed. And so if you know that, put down a weed and grass stopper in the middle of winter. Trust me, it'll be a game changer next spring when you start to garden. It'll just be easier to garden. For $20, the bag will go like 5,000 feet. I don't know all those ratios, but it's cheap for the amount of work it reduces in the yard, which that's what I don't like watering and I don't like weeding. That's why I've got computers to run all the irrigation, fed by satellites and internet feeds and calculating the wind and evaporation rates. I've got fancy computers running my irrigation, and I use weed and grass stopper pretty much over the entire yard because I'm not going to be weeding this next year or ever. Just don't like weeding. Those are two things: pruning, feeding, keeping the weeds down in your yard. Be right back with Lisa Waters Lane after this.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for timely garden advice right for higher elevations. Guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Look, if your wife, mom, or dad wants an ugly sweater for Christmas, get them a sweater, not some piece of plastic.
But if someone you truly care about loves their garden, a gift card to Waters makes perfect sense.
Next spring, she can pick exactly what she was hoping.
We all know it's not the same as a huge flower basket or fragrant rose, but hey, it's winter. Gardeners understand.
Waters online gift cards are found at top10plants.com or at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening is very rewarding, with a few Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts sure to turn your thumbs even greener. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week, and we just give this segment to her to get a different perspective on gardening. So we don't just get, here's Ken, a man, talking about gardening. We're only talking about tomatoes, diseases, and lawns. That's it. we can broaden our horizons to the beautiful stuff, the decoration, the decor, the fragrance, which I think women just pick up on better than men anyway. Well, I can't say that.
That's kind of sexist. I'm not sure I agree.
We see our core customers that come in repeatedly. You can name them. You just know who they are. They're typically women But then the men actually spend more. So when they come in, they just buy a lot more. So they're going out, I'll take a whole row of trees, have them planted for me. Can you have them out next week? And the ladies are in, I'm gardening today, and I'm going to garden next week. I'm going to garden the next week. And they're more consistent, I guess. Is that a gut feel, or am I getting that wrong?
I don't know. I'd have to think. I'd have to see the numbers.
I got a computer that'll tell us. I mean, these computer systems tell us what happens. So,
I don't know. I see a little bit of both, every which way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any certain shopper.
I have noticed one phenomena this year that the gardeners are younger. Mm-hmm. We have seen more families,
which is nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It used to be Prescott. Maybe this uniquely Prescottonian seems to be. Younger active retirees are coming in. They're do it themselves, or they're picking out their trees and they have their contractors put it in, that kind of stuff. So this year we saw a tremendous number, and it started early.
I think
families.
A lot of it was the whole COVID thing. So family, they were thinking about growing. So a lot of new gardeners putting gardens in, fruit trees, berries. Yeah. And then kind of once you're hooked, I think, and you want to be out in your yard working, or
it felt good.
Yeah.
Felt good to be in the sun. Yeah. I think partly too that what could be, and I don't have any science behind this, but we just saw our kids who were teaching kids online at home behind a screen. Mm-hmm. I just saw enough mothers basically coming in with kids that I think it was screen time, just ability to not shop at the garden center, but just to be outdoors and garden with the kids, was get them to do something that's active, that's soil in the hands. They got some dirt on them, and they might have killed off a plant, but you know what? They get to yank it out of that container, put it in the ground, and watch it grow and pick fruits. I think there was some of that.
I would agree.
A lot of that going on.
Sure.
That and houseplants have been going off the chart.
Houseplants are wildly popular.
Wildly popular,
I think people are home. They're working from their home office. Their kids are at home learning. And by golly, you need something green and growing and producing oxygen in there.
Yeah. There's some new science coming out that actually says there's more benefits to houseplants in your workspace. It actually makes you more productive. There's some mood things that it helps you feel better. Yeah, the clean air takes out benzenes and formaldehydes, all that stuff. We've known that for years, but now we're seeing the mental positive impact of houseplants. In fact, I'm putting together an article now for next year, which is like next week, yay! on the benefits of houseplants, designing with houseplants, what they're not just designing and what are the top 10 plants, but what do they do for you? Right. Why do you want to do that? It's that side of it. Some of the new science we've got coming out.
Oh, it's important. In fact, I think you mentioned we redid your office, so. I don't think you had you had like 2 houseplants in here.
Yep.
But now you got like 6 or 7 houseplants.
And none it's a 2-room house, basically converted to my office. And the living room had some plants, but my main office where the desk is didn't have one. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Now I can zoom into meetings and I will look like a rock star because I've got art behind me, plants. I'll look like I own a garden center.
Yeah.
Whereas before I looked like I was half homeless, half, I don't know. Just came off the streets and zoomed into this high-powered CEO, whatever.
And plants will help your mental state, so it's all a positive, right?
So what are house plants might help your mental state, or easy to grow, or what are house plants people are going after?
So when I have new people or new to being houseplant parents, I always try to steer them in easy care directions because there are actually quite a few that are just super easy to take care of. Number one that comes to mind for me is the Zzz Plant, which stands for Zamzifolius, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember
Africa. It's Zanzibar.
I can't remember, but it is such a cool dark green plant, big oval leaves on it. You don't even have to shine it, but it looks like it's shiny all the time. Super, super drought hardy. I mean, I water mine at home maybe every 2 to 3 weeks.
If you remember.
If I remember. And they just take care of themselves. And they can be in a spot where they get good bright light. And they can also take a spot where it's maybe a little darker, a hallway or someplace like that. Yeah. So just super adaptable. Chinese Evergreen is another one that I just find is really easy to take care of. There's several varieties of Chinese Evergreen. Some have white in them, some have silver, some even have pink in them. Just a really dense, compact plant.
It's more of a shade plant, right?
It certainly tolerates a darker spot, but it can take a bright room too. Now,
is that the same as cast iron plant?
No,
is that the
it's
same?
different.
Oh, okay, yeah, never mind.
But cast iron plant is, it is what it says it is. It's cast iron.
Cast iron.
You could throw it against the wall and it would be fine. It just takes care of itself. Sansevieria is another one, otherwise known as mother-in-law's tongue.
Sure.
All of those that we just mentioned, you water maybe every 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, just depending on how cool or dark your house is. Some other easy ones are aloes or succulents. They're again because you're not watering, but they like bright rooms, bright sunny rooms, the best place for those.
That's all succulents are sort of that way, including your Christmas cactus and that kind of stuff. So they seem to do better in a brighter room. Yeah. Maybe not direct sunlight in that south-facing bay window, but a bright room. Yeah. Be happy for them.
Do very well. Cactus, any of your cactus. And there's some really cool. I think my favorite one is the golden barrel cactus, which most people grow outside, but up here they don't really winter over so well, so you can grow them inside. And they just make real cool little balls. Yeah. So you can get really creative with their container and kind of do a real architectural look with like a square container and a round, cactus. So you can get creative with that.
And they are gold, so you can put a blue pot or cobalt or with a gold plant. It just says, I've got Southwest style going on here. Welcome.
That is true. And of course, the ever much loved Pothos plant. Most people grow it as a hanging plant. It's you can get it variegated green and white. You can get it mostly green. You can get it yellow and green. But really nice for those plant shelves or just spot where you want a hanging plant in there. Take a little more water. You're probably watering once a week, week and a half, something like that. But still not fussy. You don't have to really thinking about them a lot other than just kind of water them. Same with the spider plant, otherwise known as airplane plant. I can't think of any other. It probably goes by some other names too.
I'm sure it's got a lot.
Most of them do, right?
Yeah.
But there again, it's another one. You just don't really. You water it. You feed it, but you don't have to obsess over it like you do on some things. So those are kind of the ones I tell people, if you're a new parent, start with those because they're just super easy to take care of.
We have a lot of styles, a lot of different houseplants here. And we bump it up for January because when that Christmas tree comes out of the house, it's going to feel cavernous. And so we've got some things to help you make it. There's so many new homes too that people are... They want to accessorize something living in that new space.
And a lot of them didn't bring their houseplants with them because they were, on the move and that type of thing. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of blooming. African violets, orchids, anthuriums. We try to bring in a nice selection of just blooming plants too, to add some color.
I think some of those too. Some of those, even the harder string of pearls. Some of these were more difficult lipstick plants. Some of these more harder to grow things. Start with the easy stuff, and once those get established, adding another plant, they actually help each other grow better. More plants. Plants like to grow together. Very social, maybe more so than even people are, in that they help each other grow. And sometimes, if you struggle, it's because you put them off by themselves. Yeah. So give them together, and they just shine. Thank you, Lisa. Great ideas on some easy-to-grow houseplants in your house this year. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners will be right back.
Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Podcast the show, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook and Instagram at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com.
Okay, maybe after the same white elephant exchange, it's time to start a new holiday tradition.
A living Christmas tree from Waters Garden Center can be decorated and enjoyed for a lifetime, not just a season.
When the holiday festivities end, gather family and friends and plant your tree together for years of enjoyment. Or Waters will plant it for you, guaranteed.
As your family tree grows, have a tree grow with your family from Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
Welcome to the Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane. Gardening in the mountains is different. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now for better advice that works locally, welcome your host, Ken Lane.
So I've had several folks in the garden center this week, and you can tell they're new. They're desert folks or tropical from warmer parts of the climate where they're not used to 4 seasons, and they're going, my plants are dead. What do I do? Going, your plants probably are not dead. They're probably just dormant. We call them deciduous. That is, they lose their leaves in the winter, and most of your fruit trees will do that. In fact, all of them. They grow up here. We don't grow citrus. That's the only evergreen one. We don't grow avocados at high altitude. Those are more warm climate, tropical kinds of plants. We do grow figs, but figs will lose their leaves. We grow pomegranates, but they lose their leaves. We grow apples, pears, cherries, apricots, nectarines, peach, all those, but they all lose their leaves. They're deciduous. If you're truly not sure is it alive or dead, or you're just convinced, oh, my crepe myrtle's dead, I'm sure of it. You go out and just on a nice day, bend the branch. And if it's pliable, that branch is alive. If it's brittle and broken and just kind of snaps off, that branch could be dead. It doesn't mean the whole plant does. Some plants are perennial. That is, they die back down to under the ground. And so they're hibernating there underground, but they don't come back. They'll come back from the roots, basically. A herbaceous perennial, that's kind of what we're talking about. So think shrubs like your lilacs, forsythia, crepe myrtles. These are all things that lose their leaves, but the stems are actually still alive. The most famous probably of all those is Russian sage. It's a shrub that has blue flowers all summer and fall. And so now it's just a bunch of gray twigs coming up from the ground, this vase-shaped, about hip-high shrub. It's very much alive. It'll come back from those stems for you. And so if you truly don't know and you want to go out and figure out, is that really alive? It's pliable. That's one way. But another way is to take your pocket knife. And sometimes if it's a younger branch, you can take your thumbnail and just scrape the bark off. And as you scrape that bark off, if it's green, kind of a Kelly green underneath the bark, you very much have sugars going up and down that stem, that branch of that vine, whatever it is. Same technique, no matter. If you scrape it as green underneath, that branch is alive. So don't worry about it. Even though it may look dead to you, it's very much alive, and it's forming new leaf buds, flower buds. In fact, you'll see now, starting the new year, you'll start to see a swelling or little nodes coming up from underneath the bark. That is next spring's, usually March and April. Give it a couple months, and those things will erupt with new flowers or new leaves from this dormant plant. The way to do it is scrape some of that bark off, and that's how you tell. The best thing you can do right now, if you're just not sure, is do that test and then fertilize. Just get it to accentuate as many of those flower buds or leaf buds as you possibly can. For evergreens, we call them, they don't really have leaf buds. They've got needles. It looks like a button on the end of the branches. That's where that new elongated branch is going to come out of a pine tree or a spruce or a fir or a cypress, cedar, juniper, all those evergreens, the conifers, that's how they operate. And so typically with your evergreens, you really only get one shot. You only get spring growth, and then whatever you have, that is it. That's all. You get one opportunity with evergreens, and it won't grow any further at that point. That's why it's so important. I tell folks, fertilize. The most important feeding for all spring blooming, all evergreens, is the fall and the new year, because you only get this one shot of growth, and that's it. This is critical for a pinyon pine that's been eaten up by scale. It looks kind of wispy and thin. It should not look that way. It should look tropical looking. Fertilize it now so it has time to take in this food. Maximize the number of buds and the size of that button. If it's got some good nutrients underneath that tree, that bud or that little button looking new growth, it's going to happen on the end of those branches, they'll get bigger. There'll be more of them. And so you'll get elongate even more for you next spring. It's how you recover from, let's say, the backside of a tree died or a branch broke off. Fertilize, and that will help it to flush more growth next spring. It's a game changer. Right now, I tell folks too, just while we're on conifers, this is the time of year. The days are so short that if it was lacking any nutrients in the soil, the trees will start to look yellow or golden. We call it winter chlorosis. And so this is very common for pines, for spruce. They'll lose that blue and they'll go more green to muted yellows. A deodar cedar, classic. It'll almost turn yellow. I mean, just like gold if it doesn't have the right nutrients. To keep those evergreens green, truly a deep, rich, the green that you planted, what you desire, fertilize those things at the new year. So sometime in the next month, give it a good dose of the all-purpose plant food, that 744. It's got a lot of sulfur in it. Sulfur lowers the pH, so you're changing the chemistry of the soil, makes it more acidic. Evergreens love more acidic. It's got cottonseed meal, which provides it a nutrient source, but also cottonseed meal is very acidic. It'll lower that pH. So it'll keep that greenness going on. I would say if you've got a brand new lawn, I'd fertilize that just to keep it green. If it's an older lawn or if it's a summer-loving lawn, let's say Bermuda, there's no way to take a summer-loving grass and turn it green this time of year. But you can take your winter grasses, your bluegrass, fescues, ryegrasses, and you can keep those looking good through most of the spring season, right through winter, through summer. They can stay green year-round. They're amazing. So that's why I like cool season grasses at the higher altitudes, because they stay green longer. Yes, buffalo, blue Grama, Bermudas, these are lower water use grasses, but the reason they're lower water, because they're dead half the year. So of course you're going to take half the water because you're only watering them half the year. So I don't really care for they're more of a desert type of grass. And so now I'm bantering back and forth. You folks know who you are with the xeriscape, native only kind of folks. I think there's a blended way to blend those things together. I want my lawn, my yard to look good year round because it's mild enough we can enjoy it year round. But check that. I've got too many folks coming in this week to the garden center. It's a week before Christmas, and they're worried that their plants are dead. I'd be inside baking cookies, not looking at my deciduous trees or shrubs, but do that test. Scrape it off with your thumbnail. Most times you can take a thumbnail and just scrape it off, and you'll see it's light green. If it's white or brown underneath that bark, that particular branch is dead. And so I just pruned back one of my Japanese maples. I've got, let me think here, 4 Japanese maples. They're all in containers. So the Japanese maple will grow at this altitude and they'll thrive as long as they don't see the sun. They don't like sun. They don't like wind. And so you got to put it in the right microclimate here in the mountains because our sun's a little more intense. The wind is ferocious. And that dry air just dries them out. So they'll tend to make them look kind of ratty looking. But my containers, I put them on the north side of my house, the entertainment patios, the west-facing, direct west face, so it only sees sun at the very end of the day. They love it. Well, they're all deciduous right now because the Japanese maples are deciduous. I was cleaning those up just so I get the form. This is an art form. It's a small tree. Got quite a few coral bark junipers, so the stem or barks are bright red. I mean, they're beautiful, even without foliage. Then the green leaves come out in the spring. It just has this beautiful red and green. I was shaping those. I did find some dead branches in my Japanese maples, just starting to shape those up. Prune those off. If it looks dead, it probably is. Go ahead and trim that off. But you could tell the ones that were vibrant and alive, they were bright red. They had this glimmer of life in them. They were supple. They would bend and move. I did trim some of those off, mainly to shape the structure so it looked more artistic in the container. I've got these in big containers. But be strategic with dead limbs, whether you know it's dead or not. before you start digging it up and making a hard call, do that test, and you'll have better gardens next spring.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.
The holidays are here in Arizona's Christmas City, bringing family closer and those chilly winter winds.
While you're decorating the outside, don't forget to brighten up the inside with exotic Christmas plants from Waters.
Beautiful Christmas cactus and poinsettia are coming to town, grown exclusively by Waters in colors you won't find anywhere else.
Unique, vibrant, and guaranteed to warm even the dreariest winter day.
Check your list twice for exotic Christmas plants at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You've tuned in to The Mountain Gardener with local garden expert Ken Lane. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
Well, I guess we are past the Christmas season, so celebrations are done. I guess through the weekend, smaller gatherings. We're having quite a few smaller gatherings just to kind of try to stay safe, wearing our mask a lot, sanitation everywhere. But I'm most encouraged I don't have to say Merry Christmas or Blessed Hanukkah or Happy Holidays anymore. We can shift on to May you have a prosperous new year. I like the sound of that. 2021. In fact, we just posted. If you get bored and you're at home and you wish you could go back to work, or you're missing all those Zoom calls in that back bedroom, you just need more seat time behind the screen, you can check out Waters Garden Center. We just posted our 2021 garden classes. Not all of them are up there, but the first couple months are. So you'll see January. We're starting January 16th with Happy Houseplants. We are going to gather. We're going to host it in the back greenhouse. I'm hoping it doesn't get too crazy cold, but I think this is a 5,000 square foot structure. We could probably fit 100 people in there and still be 6 foot apart, space things up. So we'll spread everything out. We'll crank up the heaters, so it'll add a lot of flow. I think we can keep it safe. So we're going to try it, and we're upping our game on how to stream those classes. So you could tune in from your own office if you'd like as well. But take a look at those. The very first one, we're going to start at 9:30 on Saturdays, January 16th. Happy, healthy houseplants with professional styles. The 23rd, we're thinking Saturdays at 9:30. That seems to be something, especially in winter. It's a good time. So we're going with a garden design class called Top Local Landscapes with Flair. How do you add some accents to your yard that just looks good, it feels good, that accents the architecture that you have, that says, hey, I've got style. At the end of January, the last Saturday, we're going January. Wildflowers, it's the best time to plant wildflowers. You're just going over the mixes, how to plant, how to have more. January is your month to put wildflowers out. So we just wanted to host a class on that. And it continues going on. If you're new to the area, if say you've got a new house and you're trying to research plants that you could put out there, we put our plants online. So you can take a look and research that. It's on our website, watersgardencenter.com. It's pretty hard to find, huh? Just Siri, give me Waters Garden Center online. It'll pop you right up there. There's a shop button right on the front screen. We've isolated. You can shop plants, trees, evergreen trees. It just makes it so easy. And you'll see what the prices, the sizes. We've got descriptions that are local for us. It's not how they grow in the Northwest, where they natively grow 80 feet tall. And if you read the national tags, it's 80 feet by 20 feet tall. I'm going, it doesn't grow that way here. Actually, plants at this altitude in more of a drier climate. I don't care whether you're tuned in from Kingman, Henderson, Flagstaff, White Mountains, Payson, Prescott. It's drier, it's windier. The soil's more alkaline, harder, just more clays. And so plants seem to stunt about 25% of their normal height. So if it says it grows 50 feet normally, it might only grow 35, 40 feet here, just because our environment doesn't allow them to grow as large. And so if you're from the Midwest and you see mock orange and it grows 12 feet tall, it's not going to grow that way here. It might get 6 feet if you're happy. So we put those descriptions on the website so you can research plants, and you've got actual kind of gardeners, boots on the ground, giving you advice on what they're going to look like in your own backyard. It's a great research tool. You can buy them online if you want to. This whole COVID thing, it's this disease is it's real. So we've got delivery, pickup, plantings, whatever you need. But it's there it really is a research what's here to make your life easier. So Ken and Lisa Lane, may I wish you one last Merry Christmas and the end of 2021 and a prosperous New Year.
Look, if your wife, mom, or dad wants an ugly sweater for Christmas, get them a sweater, not some piece of plastic.
But if someone you truly care about loves their garden, a gift card to Waters makes perfect sense.
Next spring, she can pick exactly what she was hoping.
We all know it's not the same as a huge flower basket or fragrant rose, but hey, it's winter. Gardeners understand.
Waters online gift cards are found at top10plants.com or at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
If you want a more fruitful garden, increase success in your landscape that just feels better, then tune in every week to The Mountain Gardener. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.